In today's video, we're going to be looking at this. This is the fantastic Olympus 12-40 2.8 Pro lens. It's been out for a long time, but does it still cut the mustard in the current times? Well, join me and find out. Roll titles. Hi YouTube, Brian James at Micro Four Thirds Guy with you once again, and today I'm playing with a gem actually. I've used this lens a lot in the past on different, but I haven't owned one for an awful long time, and it seems a good time to revisit it. This is the Olympus 12-40 f2.8 fixed aperture lens, and I love it. It's a great lens. It's part of the Pro series, and last year or earlier this year, OMDS brought out the Mark II version of this, and really there's not a great difference between the two. It's got a slightly different coating on the front lens, and also slightly better weather sealing. But this is very well weather sealed anyway, so it's usually not a great deal of upgrade. If I already had one of these, I wouldn't go out and buy a Mark II version. Put it that way, I would keep this one. But I'm going to have a look at this because it's been out a long time, this lens, and there's an awful lot of them on the second-hand market. It came as a kit lens with the original OM1, if you bought it as a kit, and the OM1 Mark II, and it's about time, as I say, I thought I'd revisit it. Now, as I say, the lens itself is a fixed aperture, f2.8, well, maximum f2.8, it goes down to f22 at the closed end. But what I mean by a fixed aperture is, as you zoom the lens on less expensive lenses, you find that your maximum aperture gets less. Well, on this one, it's f2.8 at 12mm and f2.8 when you're zoomed into 40. Now that gives an equivalent of 24mm to 80mm if you want a full frame camera, and that's a really nice range for me. I found that when I was doing a lot of portrait work, I used to shoot with a Canon 85mm lens, so there's only a 5mm difference between that and this fully open, and I found that that was an ideal sort of portrait lens for me. I loved it. Now this one fully open is fantastic at 40mm, even at f2.8. I can't see really any softening on the corners. I can't see vignetting on the corners. It's one of those lenses which doesn't seem to change whatever you do with the aperture, and I think that's really important, hence why it's a Pro Series lens. The feel of it is fantastic. It's metal construction, lovely little blue anodized ring around there, the standard sort of squared off grip for the zoom, and again a really nice focus on this one. And this one has the clutch, so when you want to go to manual mode, just pull the clutch back. What's special about that? Well, what it does, when normally on a lens which doesn't have the clutch on this, if you take a photograph and you do it in manual and you switch to auto and you refocus on something else, you go back to manual, you have to refocus. On this, it remembers by you pull the clutch in. If you focus where you want it to be, put the clutch back out and go back to auto, do what you like with it. As soon as you pull the clutch in, you're back as you were. The other thing is as well, it gives you the opportunity to have depth of field markers. And if you're doing any sort of manual work, the depth of field markers can be really useful if you know how to use them. Very good system, very clean, very tidy, and also will work with Lumix cameras as well. It also has a lens function button, which can be assigned to all sorts of things on this. I think that the lens function button is a useful addition, and it'd be nice to see more cameras have it. And again, a lot of the Lumix cameras will recognize this lens function button and allow you to program it in there, so it is useful across the full Micro Four Thirds range. As I said about the optical quality on this, it just doesn't seem to get problems irrespective of what aperture you're choosing and what focal length you have. And that gives a huge amount of peace of mind when you're actually going out taking photographs. You don't want to be having to worry about whether your gear is going to reproduce what you want it to do. You're going to see it in there, and you don't really see any vignetting, you don't see any purple fringing. A lot of it's probably taken out in the software in the cameras, of course, because a lot of the processing is done inside the cameras these days. But you still have to have a good lens in the first place. Rubbish in, rubbish out. And even if the camera's got some fantastic ability to correct the lens, it's still a correction from something which is bad. This just doesn't seem to give bad results. Now, I've used this on my G9, I've used it on my GX8, I've used it on my EM1, and I've used it on the EM5 Mark III, which I've been testing recently. And it's just a nice lens. Now the diaphragm in this is a 7-element diaphragm, and at the f2.8 it gives you lovely bokeh if that's what you're after for portraits, and really nice clean bokeh balls so you don't get that sort of edginess to them either. It has 14 elements in 9 groups. So if you're into that sort of element count, 14 elements in 9 groups. I'm going to have to look down at this because we've got all these things. So I'll tell you, I never really worry about these, to tell you the truth. I just care if the lens is good image quality rather than there. But I'll tell you, 14 elements, 9 groups, 1 spherical ED element, 2 spherical elements, 1 DSA element, 2 ED elements, 1 HD element, 2 H elements, and a partridge in a pear tree, I think. The important thing for me, as I say, it's the image quality. Whatever's built into it, I don't really care too much, but I do care that you get superb image quality. And as I said, almost no lens flare. I do use the lens cap on it, which comes supplied on this one, and is a locking lens cap. But I do find that it's just not really a problem. It just works straight out of the box and works extremely well. Filter size is 62 millimeters. And the closest focus on this is down to, I'll just double check again, 20 centimeters. So it's not a macro lens, but it's getting incredibly close into the subject. Remember that your focusing distance is from the focal plane mark on your camera to the outside. So 20 centimeters isn't actually very far in front of the lens itself. Size-wise, it's 84 millimeters by 70 millimeters, and it's 382 grams in weight. So it's not a heavy lens. It's chunky, yes. It is substantial, yes. But it's not a silly heavy lens. This, compared to an awful lot of lenses, again, I had on the full frame system, is small, neat and tidy, even if it's on the larger side for the Micro Four Thirds. So I know it's been on the market an awful long time, but is it still worth it? I think if you're wanting to get a really good quality standard range zoom, and what I mean by standard range has that 25mm on the Micro Four Thirds or nifty 50 sort of thing in its range. So this is certainly a standard range lens. If you want the standard range lens, zoom lens, and you want the top quality that you can get on Micro Four Thirds, go for this. Now the competition for this one would be the 12-35 from Lumix, which again is an absolutely superb lens, absolutely fantastic. But that 5mm on the top end does make a difference, and I'm finding that these second hand are slightly cheaper than the 12-35s. Also with the 12-35, there's been 2 distinct versions of it done, and you really need to be going for the Series 2 rather than the Series 1, and that puts the price up on the second-hand market. So for my money, you've got this. Oh, the only other thing to look at is you have the 14-45mm, which gives you a little bit more on the top end. Again, part of the Olympus Pro range, and that's a fixed f4 aperture. So it's worth looking at, but it doesn't have the clutch, and it also doesn't have other few bits and pieces, even if it is slightly smaller and lighter. So, overall recommendations, yeah, buy one. If you can afford it, it's the lens to go for normal shooting. It really is. It doesn't give you the maximum sort of things. I've just done a review on the 12-200, which will be a link there hopefully. But the 12-200 Olympus lens is a super zoom, gives you a lot more range, but it doesn't quite have the image quality of this lens, and it doesn't have the some of the niceties, again, like the manual focus clutch. So you pay your money, it takes your choice, but I would say that if you want to have really good quality images, this is a lens to get in your collection. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to give a big thumbs up please, because it really does help these videos spread on YouTube. And also drop me a comment if you've used this lens before. If you own this lens, let me know. If you have a Series 2, let me know about how you feel about the differences. And also don't forget, if you want to subscribe my Patreon channel, there's a link there, just there. And if you want to leave me enough for a cup of coffee at PayPal, There's a PayPal link there, and some of the ones that you've seen I've put down paypal.com. It's paypal.me, so I've had to replace it on this one. So if you want to leave me enough for a cup of coffee, I'd really appreciate it. However, till the next time, keep on taking your camera out, keep on having fun with your photography. See ya. Bye bye.